All right, let's talk about retrieval devices as far as safety lines are concerned. The regulations state a rescuer should be wearing a retrieval line at all times. What's it mean all times? All times. What is a retrieval line? It's nothing spectacular. Basically, it's a line that we can follow from an anchor to the end point and find our rescuer. This serves two purposes. One purpose, it enables us to take a piece of rope and do what's called a non-entry rescue, meaning we don't have to send any personnel into that space. We can simply take our rescuer who has fallen unconscious, hurt, injured, immobilized at some point, or they need assistance, they're semi-conscious or something like that. We could take that line and make it into a retrieval type system. We can make a hauling system out of it. So we'll go over that very briefly, but I do want to show you retrieval lines, what they look like when we start talking about them. All right. So a retrieval line, it doesn't say in the regulations, but NFPA does state it, that a retrieval line has to have a point that's fixed. What do I mean? Okay, so sometimes we'll go to incidents and I'll ask someone to put a retrieval line on. They'll stick this retrieval line onto the rescuer, stay right there, and the rescuer will be at the end of this line right here, and the person will be holding it. Well, we don't know, as far as infrastructure, if you're doing what's called a horizontal entry down a manhole that goes down and then transverses across about 100 feet. What these do, these manholes, these holes, as they go down a few feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet, they go into what's called a big concrete vault. At the end of that hole, that, as they go into the vault, may fall 3 feet, 5 feet, 20 feet, I don't know how long, but that particular rescue might fall. So if I'm simply just holding it and my rescuer goes down a hole, he's falling, he or she is falling to that point. So what we do is we make what's called a fixed anchor point, and this is an example of a fixed anchor point. So my rescuer would be on the end of this line here. You guys, I'm giving you the line. There's the line. And at the end of this line, I have an anchor. We talked a little about anchors earlier. This is tubular webbing. It's doubled over, very strong. I have a steel carabiner right here, and it provides an anchor point. What I do is I take my line, and I take my prusik cords. I have 2 prusik cords attached to this free end line, and I'll take these 2 prusik cords and I'll stick them in here. I'll throw that in, turn it, halfway, locked. Make sure that these are tensioned off, and at this point what I can do is my rescuer can do their function. They're gonna move very slowly, and at some point, if they fall, if I let go and it takes a shock load, I'm gonna take a shock load, it'll stick, and that person won't fall. So that's called a retrieval line. As they're coming up, I can go ahead and mine that prusik and help them bring up. At any time, again, if they have some type of fall, it will catch that, and the prusiks will keep them from falling. So that's an example of a retrieval line. A couple things on retrieval lines. I'll get my rescuer over here. Couple things. I got my rescuer right here, and they have a class 3 harness, as you can see on the rear here. They have the dorsal connection. They also have connections down on the bottom here, here, and on the front. What will happen is if my rescuer is going to go down and make their entry, typically what folks will do is they'll stick it up on here. What we'll do is we'll grab a carabiner, stand by. What we'll do is we will take the end of the retrieval line, and again we use the family of 8s. We'll stick a figure 8 on a bite here. Okay, again having a very small loop at the end. Put that in there. We'll stick it, take a personal carabiner, stick it on his dorsal or the rear, whichever they prefer. Okay, most people like them down here. We'll stick it here for all intents and purposes. I'll lock it off, turn it back half, it's locked. There's a retrieval device. If you look at this, it says to keep it on at all times. Let's say he gets to his victim, here he gets to the victim. But it does say, if at any time the retrieval device, the retrieval line impedes your rescue or your safety, it can be disconnected. Well, let's say this person's in an 18-inch hole. Reese, why don't you go ahead and try to disconnect that line. Okay, now he's in a hole. It's going to be actually fairly difficult for them to do that, right? So to make it easier for this person, go ahead and stand by. What we can do is I can, first of all, I can go ahead and stick a prusik cord onto his connection. And I can just double it over in his harness. Put a prusik cord in here. Hook this up. He's hooked to the retrieval device, and that's another use of this prusik cord to extend it. Reese, we're going to practice. I've already hooked your retrieval device. I want you to practice before we make an entry, and I want you to demonstrate how you're going to unhook this and rehook it. So I'm going to put it back here. Go ahead and reach down. It's very easy to access. He can go ahead and unhook the carabiner, unhook it from the rope, let it go, let the rope go. He's got his device. So now he's rescued his victim. He's meandered around the obstacle that he needs to do. Now he's going to rehook his device because we need to get it on at all times unless it impedes your rescue or your safety. He's going to hook it back on. But it's using this prusik cord makes it much easier for them to access. And that's retrieval devices for you. And as just know that as a confined space awareness trained, you are not allowed to make an entry. As technicians are only not allowed to make entries. Now, if you have a LARO class or you have some rope skills, is this something that you can do? Just remember, whatever your mission is, or whatever the task you're given for the mission, it's important to the overall completion of that task and that rescue. So it is important. So just simply helping this person suit up in this complicated class 3, helping them hook up, helping them to be familiar with the devices they have. And I want to show you one more device that's often forgotten about, is the meter. We talked to, you'll see it, if you haven't seen it already, you'll see in the other modules, is the 4-gas meter. This thing has a device. What we want to do, in addition to making this very easy for them to access, maybe making this easy for them to access, maybe putting around their shoulder, and I'm going to help him suit up and show, hey, here's your 4-gas monitor. If you need to read it, can you read it? There it is. Would you like it a different place? It unhooks here. Or what we can do is even take off this lanyard, and it has a little clip device, and I could clip it onto his person and just put it in like that and have it more accessible for him. So the 4-gas meter as well, and we would turn it on prior to its use. So retrieval devices must be worn at all times unless it impedes your rescue, but in general, retrieval lines shall be used at all times.